Good morning, everyone. My name is Shayanti Mukherjee. I'm presenting this first talk behalf of Stuart, who's our PhD student in our group. I have no disclosures, and I'm very thankful to ICS for providing a travel award to me. Following the first public health notification about the transvaginal meshes, our group was motivated to start a project using stem cells derived from the endometrium and some new meshes which would be more biocompatible. After a few studies in rodent models and new design of mesh based on what was available at that point, we got promising results that when we add endometrial stem cells with meshes, the ECM that is formed and is more physiological. So this motivated us to go ahead using a sheep model, because the rodent model is an abdominal model and it always does not, the results do not translate when we use it vaginally. And I think there's more and more literature on that. So the aim of this study was to use a new polyamide mesh, and we used two different methods to add endometrial stem cells on this. And the main hypothesis was that the endometrial MSCs will improve the biocompatibility, and when we use an autologous model, the stem cells will stay longer to give the good effects for a long time. So how do we choose the shape for this study? So we have an ovine model where we actually do a PopQ on the shape. It's very interesting. Talk to me about it later. We choose them based on our criteria, and we also get the autologous MSCs from these sheep using our standardized marker that we've worked on for many years. And we label them with a fluorescent dye, and then there are two, we combine them with these meshes. So there are two methods in which we implant these meshes. One is where we have the mesh and the cells. They are prepared before implantation and implanted together. The second method is where we implant the mesh first and then drop the cells and cross-link it using a UV light. So, and then we do many experiments to see whether which is better and what's happened. So in this model, we saw that I'll just mention method 1 and 2. So in the first method, we got a lot of exposures, and we see that the mesh is really disrupted in the vaginal tissue. So although we got promising results in the rat model, it was not as good in the vaginal model. So our model is actually quite good at detecting early exposures and gives us a good idea whether it's going to work or not. So there was a significant amount of tissue disruption when we added the cells beforehand, so in method 1, in both with or without MSCs. And there was not much foreign body giant cells, though. Similarly, there was a lot more myofibroblast in method 1 compared to method 2, both with MSCs and without MSCs. And similarly for elastin, whether it was around the mesh filament or in the muscularis area of the vaginal tissue, method 1 was worse than method 2. So the stem cells that were transplanted, we could find them after 30 days, but a lot of it, so not as many as we sort of hoped to, but still we could find them. So the most important thing here is that in method 1, there was a lot more M1 macrophages, which is an inflammatory type of macrophages, and we don't want that. Whereas in method 2 of delivering these cells, we found there was more M2 macrophages, which is what we want. They're the healing type of macrophages. But there was no difference in the stiffness overall in these two types. So I think what we found in this study was that our model and the way we choose our sheep using the PopQ method is a really good method of identifying using the right sheep rather than just randomly choosing from the herd. Then the two-step approach where we first implant the mesh and then put the cells on it on the operation table is better than actually cooking it up in beforehand and then implanting the whole construct. And also the method 2, which is better in all aspects, it's also, our surgeon said, it's much easier to do it that way. But this study was done only for 30 days, which is pretty early, and that's why we probably haven't seen much difference between using MSCs and using just the mesh alone. So our future studies are more towards longer time points, and hope we will see the kind of results that we were hoping to in a longer time point. Thank you.